Happy birthday to you. Happy little birthday to you. Happy birthday to the country formerly known as the United States of America. Happy little birthday to you. So, today is what I'm calling the unbirthday of the country formerly known as the United States of America, or I'm also calling the Undependence Day. It is time for us to free our minds of any of the dependencies that are keeping us from reaching our highest potential. So, I had grand plans to start this before anybody started making noise, because I wanted this to be an option for folks who don't like the loud explosions that tend to go along with this particular holiday. But my neighbors already started throwing off firecrackers, so maybe they were just testing, and maybe they were going to wait until it gets dark, but hopefully this will be a nice, peaceful conversation. I shouldn't say peaceful. This conversation is meant to be food for thought. This conversation is meant to stimulate some thought about what in the world do we want this holiday to be. This holiday is celebrating the independence from the British Empire. Well, what happens when we're the empire? How do we declare independence from our own empire? That's the trick. So I got curious and I asked Google to tell me, to sort of summarize what is the cause of what are the rise and falls of empire. I was actually curious about how long each of them took. And I skimmed it over. I didn't go into detail. This was like very much a Google version of history, and I do not recommend doing that, but I just needed to get myself. I've never been a very avid student of history. I'm going to admit that as a shortcoming. I think I just never had really good teachers when I was in, grade school and middle school and high school. Because other subjects I loved. Anyway, I digress. So I don't remember what the specifics were, but it seemed like all of the things that tend to be the cause of the downfall of any empire, we are all up in it right now, my friends, my fellow citizens, my fellow countrymen, my global citizens. So what I did is I looked at what... these are just the empires that Google decided were the samplings that I needed to look at, right? So there's the Ottoman Empire, the Roman Empire, which apparently there's actually Roman Western and Roman Eastern, and they're two different things, and one of them was only one of them was only a few centuries, 500 years, and the other one was 15 centuries. Thank you to the Roman Catholic Church for that. No one expects the Inquisition, right? The British Empire, the Mongol Empire, which is on the shorter end of things, it was less than 1 century. I guess that was under the rule of Genghis Khan. The Persian Empire, which was 2 centuries. The Russian Empire, from 1721 to 1917, 2 centuries roughly. And then, of course, the Soviet Empire, which was less than a century. So the British Empire was 4 centuries. The Ottoman Empire was 6 centuries, and then of course the Roman was the longest. But we're not going to be anywhere near the longest. We're right in there with the ones that came and went, and we're on our way down. So my question is, do you want to just rip the Band-Aid off and make something new, or do you want to wait until it's this long, laborious, tedious rotting away of everything we thought was beautiful. So I'm going to propose something different. So since this is our nation's birthday, the celebration of yet another year around the sun of this entity being in existence, this great experiment, the so-called great democracy, and I decided to do a Celtic solar wheel reading for the coming year. And I do not like to call these predictions. That's not how I treat any kind of deck. It's not a tarot deck. It's just called Celtic Messages. It's got different archetypes and different symbols from the tarot, but there's a lot of sort of motifs that are common. So now they would normally begin their solar wheel with Halloween, with Samhain, with November 1st, October 31st. But we're going to actually begin it with, so we're right in between Midsummer and Lunasa, so for the next month, that's where we're going to begin. But of course, what we have to do is anytime you ask any deck a question, you have to get the foundational status of where is the querent right now. And my friends, it's the crow. The crow is here. This is where we are. And the crow is a new start. A crow is clearing the ground. The crow is clearing the ground after death and destruction, and we have had so much of that this year. Getting rid of what is no longer needed. Now, the crow would prefer that we recycle what we don't need anymore, or give away to someone else who might be able to make use of something we don't need anymore. So we don't want to waste anything, but the message is clear: be ruthless, if that is what is required. And I think that's where we are. We've seen a lot of ruthlessness, not necessarily in a good way. I think there has been some savagery from multiple angles and some destruction and disintegration of the very institutions of our democracy that we hold dear, which are just being torn apart and shredded. So that's where we are, right? We've been there. We're here. But what I have for the next 8 cards is I have what I will call invitations to opportunities. So that's sort of how I like to consider this future thinking card reading practice. This is an invitation to future opportunities. And so there's going to be 8 of them, for each of the stations of the solar wheel. And boy, they are very interesting. And they suggest that if we could all just take these opportunities as each period goes by in the next coming year, that we can end up in a very beautiful and loving and compassionate place. So here's the invitation. The very first message, and it came through as an urgent message, is the land. And I apologize, my scan of these is a little off, but I think you get the idea. So the land, the message here, and the urgent message is that the land itself is sacred. The land itself is a manifestation of the mother goddess who supports us. She always supports us. And when we die, she absorbs our meat and bones and transforms that into new life. She herself is sacred. The message is clear. The message is urgent. And the message is specifically to respect the earth that gives us life, which we must all share. And in addition to that, we must heal the damage to the earth that has already been caused. So this is what in the circles that I'm wandering, the thing that I keep hearing is that the cataclysm that is coming is not some natural disaster or some cosmic event. It is man-made. made. We are doing this to ourselves. So it's time to heal the land which supports us, which always will, unless, of course, we desecrate her, and in which case she will expel us from the land, and then she will heal herself. So it is time for us to work in harmony with the land, to heal the land and ourselves on that land. Okay, that's what we have to focus on. That is the opportunity to focus on for the rest of this month. So then the next signpost, the next moment of opportunity for reflection is the autumnal equinox, and that is going to be the field. And the field is a card that represents it represents labor, work, the workplace, because in Celtic lore, everyone had a farm, and so the entire family would just work the farm. And so the field was the place of work. It was the place of labor. And I think the message here is very clear. This is not a time to rest. We have work to do. Between now and middle of September, we have work to do. And that is the work of making sure we are self-sufficient. What are our networks of support? How can we strengthen them, right? Because we have no idea what's coming. And we never really do, to be honest. So if we never know what's coming, then it's important for us to cultivate self-sufficiency in our communities. And it is also about working as a team and pulling together to reach common shared goals. This is not the time to rest, so we have work to do before the autumnal equinox. That is our second opportunity for reflection and reframing our thoughts and focusing on new possibilities. So the next one leads us into, of course, my favorite holiday, Halloween. Or Samhain in Celtic lore. So here's what I found very, very interesting about this card. So this is the figure of Joules, and I do not know enough about Celtic mythology to say much about her. I don't know who she is. But the card tells us that she is all about analysis, rationality, and logic. And so I think of her as maybe perhaps a counterpart to Athena. She's about science and progress, but also she's about healing, prophecies, and the underworld. And we know that at Halloween, the veil is very thin. And so for me, what this card is saying is that when we are approaching that holiday, that moment in time when the veils are so thin, it is going to be incredibly important for us to do a whole lot more listening than talking. Because the only way we can hear what our ancestors are trying to share with us is if we are very still and very silent in whatever meditation practice is the one that gets you rooted and grounded and connected to Source. Her message also is rein in your emotions and think before you speak. So that's our message. That is an opportunity for reframing our thoughts as we approach the Halloween holiday. Then, of course, we are getting ready for the winter solstice, the Yuletide adventures. And that is a time, the winter solstice is a time of coming into ourselves, into the cocoon. And the card, of course, is the Hound, which the Hound is all about cooperation, working together to achieve a goal. Are you seeing a theme here? Are you seeing a motif, friends? That our way forward and our way through is through collaboration and cooperation and teamwork. But also, the Hound teaches us, and especially at the winter, that this is a time to relax together and enjoy the rest of each other's energy in celebration of those goals, whether we are on the way to them or have already achieved them. And I feel very strongly that this is the call to our chosen family. There's another card later on in the year for our family. But this, I think, is for our friend and kinship structures that are the people that we choose to have as close to us as we would the family we were born into. So that's the opportunity for reframing our thoughts at the winter solstice. So the next opportunity for reflection is Imbolc, which is also Iemanjá Day, which is also very close to my son's birthday. And the card that comes through for February 1st is Apple. And the apple is a card of magic, health, and mystical knowledge. The apple is considered the food of the gods. The apple is considered the source of immortality and wisdom. And what the apple tells us that it is time to use our skills and our knowledge to improve the well-being of our environment. Can I get an amen in this temple of grief? Can we please dedicate ourselves, as that moment arrives at the beginning of February, to collectively working towards the betterment and the improvement of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual environment? That's the call to reframing our possibilities at the beginning of February. And remember, we're going around the solar wheel, so this is the coming year for the birthday of the country formerly known as the United States of America. So, of course, the next one is the spring equinox, which also happens to often coincide with Ostara, or how the Roman Catholic Church co-opted it and called it Easter, right? So there's always these springtime rituals, these moments where we can really celebrate rebirth and life coming back from the winter. And this is where it's all about family. Family, being home, finding who your family is, how you can nurture each other. The roundhouse might get crowded at the holidays, and that's fine because it's our people and it keeps us rooted. So that is the message at the spring equinox, is an invitation to invite your people around the hearth and be together with family and nourish each other, because we need it. We're going to need it. We always need it. So that's the message for the spring. The message for May Day, which of course in the rest of the world is Workers' Day, Workers' Rights Day, but here in America we don't believe in that. We wait until the end of the summer and have Labor Day. But here we have the dolmen. So this is, of course, the mystery gateway. And this is where the dead wait for rebirth. So it's otherworldly, it's about discovery, and it is about seeking a deeper meaning of life. I was just watching another episode of Ancient Civilizations on the Gaia Network, and it's funny how the further back you go in history, and they're saying in some of these newer studies that we thought the world was about 5,000 or 10,000 years old. Turns out there is evidence that humanity is hundreds of thousands of years old. But there have been these cataclysms, right, that have come through and destroyed most of mankind, and then the earth regenerates itself and we regenerate ourselves. And that's why it's so crucial that we figure this out right now, because we are causing it. We are the man-made cataclysm happening right now. And so what they were telling us, several of the speakers were telling us in this, the further back you go, these spiritual teachings that teach us to work towards an enlightened consciousness, which is the consciousness that recognizes that we are all one. We are all part of one unified field. And our luminous body knows that, even if our physical body sometimes gets bogged down in the mire and the drama. So as you approach that May Day, that Workers' Rights Day, it is an opportunity to invite yourself. How can I reframe my life's work to give it more purpose? How can I call in my deepest, highest purpose in life at that moment in time? And then, of course, finishing the year with the dove at the summer solstice. And the dove is all about love, health, well-being. So it appears that the dove is giving us this beautiful, peaceful offering. If we can just follow these guideposts through the rest of the year, we, the global citizens who are the people of the country formerly known as the United States of America, we as global citizens, wherever we reside, if we can follow those guideposts, we can reach this place full of divine, compassionate love for ourselves, for each other, and for everyone around us. Is that a lofty ideal? Perhaps. Is it a worthy goal? 100%. So to bring us back, just a little hint again at the crow here. I'm going to give you all a little preview of a song that is in the works. It's still in the works. It's not fully done, and I'm going to sing a live bit of urubu. Urubu is the Portuguese word for the vulture, which does the same purpose as the crow. He comes along and he eats away at the decaying, rotting flesh so that we don't get sick. He's like nature's garbage truck. So this song is for all the crows out there, processing all that heavy hoocha and leaving the world a cleaner place. Here we go. Let's see if I remember all the words. This morning, right in my face. He seemed as shocked as I was to see him in that space. Shuffled on off as he looked at me sideways, and we parted ways. The original Death Eater. What an ugly creature. We don't care if you're already dead. You'll pluck those eyes right out of your head. Further on up the road, it looked like a murder of crows, or a council of Skeksis in their long velvet robes. But it was just a bunch of vultures sitting around, tired from scavenging a whole town. Your like much, but he's a royal bird. A cousin of the condor and the king vulture. He pukes when he's scared and to feed his young, and to cool himself down he wallows in his own dung. The original Death Eater. What an ugly creature. Disgusting as fuck, but he's doing the hard work of nature's garbage truck. So respect him like a hard worker hustling a trick. He's cleaning up the rotting dead so we don't get sick. The original Death Eater. What an ugly creature. We don't care if you're already dead. You pluck those eyes right out of your head. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Temple of Grief. May we all clean away the debris of the rotting dead and build ourselves a better world. Have a good one out there. Be safe. Cheers.